Yes, a beautiful morning to you, and it's also a weekend. Thank God it's Friday, as a lot of people will say. We wish you a beautiful day today as you join us on Newspaper Review on Citizen FM 93.7. My name is Lawrence Omoette, and as usual, we have a lot of dailies lined up for your entertainment this morning. So many newspapers, and as usual, also different angles from the newspapers. We're going to look at a lot of these papers in the next 30 minutes or thereabouts, and then we'll come back for an in-depth analysis on some of the headlines. And as usual, my guest is here, my companion for the show, Mr. Salman Salami. Good morning, Mr. Salami.
Very good morning to you, our amiable presenter.
Bright and early, Mr. Salami. Thank God it's Friday.
It is.
I'm sure you have plans for this weekend.
We do, all of us.
I hope I have been captured in your plans.
I'm not too sure.
Okay, whether you like it or not, I will tag along. No how. They say by force. You know what they say in Nigeria, that we not agree.
Honestly, no. In any case, you are part of my plan.
Okay, thank you so much. So, straight up, we go to some of the dailies, and let's hear what they have in stock for us. Okay, let's start with by celebrating one of our own, because most of the time the media will always go on song, but The Punch celebrates 50th anniversary with a week-long and activities. I think it's worth celebrating. To have a newspaper survive in Nigeria for 50 years is no mean feat. So we join the management and staff of The Punch newspapers to celebrate this milestone. And from there, let's see what is happening in other parts. 23, okay, Oyo government reopens 23 Oyo schools after 10-year shutdown. Wow. And the question you ask, what would happen that would lead to the shutting down of schools for 10 years? The Oyo state government on Thursday ordered the reopening of 23 schools in Atiba, Ajifo, Afijo, Oyo East and Oyo West local government areas of the state, 10 years after they were shut down over, wait for this, land dispute. The deputy governor spoke at stakeholders meeting held at the Western Hall Secretariat, Ibadan, to fashion out ways of resolving the age-long dispute. Well, thank God. Some people will say better late than never, but 10 years is almost late. But then we thank God that reason has prevailed and the schools are reopened. And from education to some good news in the agri sector, NDDC to revive Rivers Rice Mill to boost food production. That's still on the Punch newspaper. And from Rivers State to Ekiti State, 13 arrested over Ekiti monarch killings and other issues. And from there, we see one more story from the Punch newspaper before we move to other newspapers. 15 states enlist 50,000 vigilantes to tackle local security. That's good news for a lot of Nigerians. Okay, the Guardian newspaper, just like others, are highlighting our match today. Don't forget that the Super Eagles of Nigeria will square up with the Angolan national team and the ongoing quarterfinals of the AFCON 23. And let's see how the Guardian newspaper celebrates this story. Let's see. Okay, we will come back to that, but the long and short of it is that Nigeria and Nigerians, I'm sure, across the world will be waiting with bated breath as the pride of the nation, the symbol of our unity. The Nigerian national team will line up against Angola in what is expected to be a crunch match. And not forgetting that the Angolan national team is also not a pushover. Okay, let's see. There are a lot of stories on the sporting page of the Guardian newspaper. Maybe we just take a look at some of them before we go to other stories. AFCON 2023, Mwabali fit for Super Eagles as Nigeria versus Angola tie gets Senegalese referee. Well, you heard that too. Christopher wins Ancho Pro Am Golf Championship. That's still on the sporting page of the Guardian. Oshola leaves Barcelona for US League. Oh, I'm sure her fans will be interested in that story. Well, let's leave sport alone for now and go back to education. And the Guardian newspaper has a story. JAMB under Oloyede made 50 billion naira for federal government in 1 year, says Shetima, talking about Professor Isiaq Oloyede, who is the boss of JAMB, and he has been making waves since he assumed office as the boss of JAMB, and I'm sure that a lot of Nigerians will agree with that. Okay, do we still stay with the Guardian? Let's move on to the Nation newspapers. And so many stories here. INEC excludes PDP from by-election in Plateau State. Yes, the story broke yesterday, and that's already started generating some kind of controversies. And I'm sure that we get to hear more concerning that. The by-election comes up tomorrow in about 27 or 29 states across the Federation. Still on security, state police, way to go, says governors, legal giants, and others. This doesn't look as if this will go away very soon. The story started yesterday, and more and more people are weighing in. The nation stays with that story, state police. And also, still with the Nation newspapers, Naira fall, CBN moves against banks for holding $5 billion. The central bank is not letting go of that, and it's really intent on sanitizing that sector. And pressure, okay. To Edo State PDP, I am the unifier for the PDP, says Igidalo. That's one of the contestants for the PDP governorship election in Edo State. Ondo State Deputy Governor Adelami pledges total loyalty to the governor. Well, doesn't look as if he has much choice. If you want to remain in that seat, history has taught us that you have to be loyal to your principle. Well, I'm sure that Mr. Salami will have one or two things to say about that when it's time to review the paper in details. Okay, still with the Nation newspaper, federal government seeks payment of 2 trillion naira debts by minors. Federal government seeks payment of 2 trillion naira debts by minors. And this issue of mining and the mining sector has been on since in the last 3 or 4 days, and it does look as if it's not going to go away very soon. soon. Okay. Well, if you're just joining us, it's our flagship show on radio, newspaper review on Citizen FM 93.7. The phone lines are open. You can join us as we continue to navigate the media space. You can call us on 0903 2229797. That's 0903 2229797. You can also call us on 0818 2220205 or 0818 2222206. And as usual, you can also send us a WhatsApp message and let us interact. There are a lot to talk about. Just let us know where you are calling in from, and we will be glad to read your message. It's still newspaper review on Citizen FM 93.7. Okay, welcome back to the show. This day newspaper is our focus for now, and quite a lot to look at. Let's start from the oil and gas. $2.4 billion oil assets for sale. And from that, Akpabio Gowon urged Nigerians to emulate Naeko, extol Cardinal's virtues at 80. I'm sure this will be an interesting story. We are talking about the Emeritus Catholic Archbishop, His Eminence Cardinal John Onaeko, who is celebrating his birthday. And as expected, a lot of prominent Nigerians are weighing in and talking about this personality who has, in the last 60 years, given his all to the development and betterment of Nigeria. Okay, from that we move on back to the issue of finance. Federal government targets 77% rise in IGR to construct coastal roads, restore bridges, and others. Well, that's a good one. Talking about taking a look at improving that sector of the economy. Lagos Bridge, no need to fret, says Umai. Umai is the Minister of Works and is telling Lagosians, most especially, to calm down. Everything is in control. And when he says that, we believe him, because over the years, he has proven that. Okay. We're still staying with the Punch newspaper. Oh, no. This day newspaper, federal government eyes $10 billion investment in disputed OPL 245. Federal government explains ongoing talks on the Malabo deal. This Malabo deal has been more than 15 years now, and it always has a way of coming back to the news once in a while. Well, we leave it at that. And in throwback interview, Buhari explains why he didn't float Naira despite IMF pressure. Well, that's from this day newspaper. And for some business news from this day, says Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger may close airspace against Nigerian flights. Aviation stakeholders warn. I told you that the controversy will always remain for a while now, starting from Monday when we announced the pulling out of these three countries from ECOWAS, and a lot of developments have been recorded since Monday, and this is another one again. Okay, and back to Nigeria. Fans bizarre 2.5 billion naira flights hotel accommodation costs. This is another fallout of the relocation of some departments of the Nigerian ministries and agencies. And the Federal Airport Authority is one of them. The CBN is one of them. Departments and not the whole institution, as some people want to believe. And one of them has been the interview granted by the Minister of Aviation. And this is one of the fallouts. High cost of flight tickets and hotel accommodation for officers of the agency. Well, still with this day, digital micro savings need clear pathway to pump life into African economies. That's the way to go. IATA releases 2024 cargo ground handling manuals. Still with this day, export list measures to address future of data privacy. That's still with this day newspaper. And NCAA calls for verification status of aircraft equipment. Well, this is the way to go to protect that industry, protect lives, and also create confidence for travelers. Pipeline security, a company adopted of smart technology. That's all we can take from this day newspaper. Okay, before we open the phone lines, the Tribune is our last port of call. Saturday's by-elections, IGP orders movement restriction in 26 states. So, if you are in this 26 states, we are going to let you know the states later. Then you know that movements, vehicular movements, and even human movements will be restricted, except you are in the category of those providing essential services. So that's it. Saturday by-elections, IGP orders movement restrictions in 26 states. Power Minister recommends removal of electricity subsidy. Oh, and this is one that I think will also generate a lot of controversy. We will also look at this in detail and see what the story is all about. But the Tribune has it that Power Minister recommends removal of electricity subsidy. Okay, before we take a break, let's take one or two stories. Yes, digital media, social media, where do we draw the line? These are feature stories that you can also find in the Tribune newspapers. Newspaper review will return in a moment. Please don't go away.
Abuja. Wake up. Reach out.
so much for staying tuned. It's still newspaper review on Citizen FM 93.7. It's the second half of the show, and that's time of the show where you call in and make your contributions, observations, and whatever on the stories that we read in the first half. And the lines are open. You can call us on 0903 22 29797. That's 0903 22 29797. You can also call us on 0818 22 22205 or 0818 22 206. Any of these numbers, you can send us a WhatsApp number, our WhatsApp message. Just let us know where you're writing in from, and we will respond to your message. So it's set for the second half, and let's formally unveil in-house analyst, Mr. Salman Salami. Always good to see you, Mr. Salami.
It's a pleasure being here, always.
Okay, let's start with this. Let's start with sports. Today, our national team is going to engage the Angolan national team for a ticket to the semi-finals. Let's see how the Guardian newspaper puts the story. The boys have been separated from the men. The initial field of 24 teams in this year's African Cup of Nations has been narrowed to 8. And today, the battle for who picks a semi-final ticket begins with the Super Eagles pitted against the Palanga Negras of Angola. Incidentally, all the 8 teams at the 2021 edition of AFCON held in Cameroon have been eliminated, leaving the race for the teams who were not too highly rated before the competition kicked off in January the 13th. Mr. Salami, where will you be watching the match? And what's your expectations as our boys fly that famous green, white, green?
Well, you know that I'm not a particularly sports person, but when it comes to Nigeria playing, I must just be seen and I must be counted. You know, there are so many interesting things. Even scripturally, the boys and the men, the boys and the men, the Nigerian Green Eagles and the Palanga Negras. As intimidating as the name Palanga Negras,
whatever it means,
they cannot intimidate our boys.
Speaking as a Nigerian,
we are patriots.
Yes,
this is where patriotism comes in. We must all go out to cheer up our people. We must cheer them to victory. Nigeria must show that yes, we are united. And one thing that unites Nigerians, sports. This is where you see Obina and Adekunle in a beer parlor,
forgetting their differences temporarily.
For that 90 minutes, of play, you will see Nigeria as one. And indeed we are one. We can be one. We should be one. And that is what Citizen FM is preaching. That we must unite this country, whichever way, whether by sports, by marriage, or even by drinking beer.
I don't know about that, Mr. Salami.
The most important thing is Nigeria and Nigerians should be united. I don't drink beer too, you know, and I'm not encouraging that.
Okay.
I'm just talking that simply just to make a point.
Okay.
Figuratively speaking.
I think I agree with Mr. Salami on the need for us to forget perceived differences for now. And you see, sport has a way of unifying Nigerians. You need to be at maybe a viewing center when Nigeria is playing, or when any national team is at war, so to speak. You see the unity, and sometimes I look around and say, what a lovely set of people. How come when it comes to election, when it comes to other things, we now whip up unnecessary sentiments, emotions, just to go after one another when these lovely people, especially the people that you will classify as ordinary Nigerians, lovely, share drinks, share food during festive period, you see them doing this. But what is it,
Lawrence,
with Nigeria?
Lawrence,
Yes,
our diversity is our strength.
yes, should be. But there are people who try to exploit that to their own advantage.
They will not succeed.
Amen. We say amen, and this is wishing our national team the best of the best today as they go for glory. Over 200 million Nigerians are solidly behind you, and we will cheer. And no matter the outcome of that match today, we will always celebrate our national team.
Victory is ours.
Yes, I agree with that. Thank you. And well, Mr. Salame, let's come back home, and there's this. Let's look at this story, which is very disheartening. From the Punch newspaper, it says the Oyo State government on Thursday ordered the reopening of 23 schools in the state, which were shut down after 10 years over land dispute. The deputy governor spoke at a stakeholders meeting at the Western Hall, said there was a way to fashion out resolving age-long land dispute. Lawalu doubles as the chairman of your state boundary committee, charged the chairman of Achiba and the rest of them, and he added that the Ministry of Education would oversee the schools after reopening and do whatever was required to put the children back to school. Mrs. Salami, this is heart-wrenching. Whatever would have been the dispute, the communal dispute, 10 years means that we've had at least 2 governors, including, okay, maybe one governor and this one governor served for 8 years, and then there's another governor. So it means we have people in charge. How difficult would it have been, Mr. Salami, to shut down a school for 10 years?
As you were just reading the news and as you were just talking, I was visualizing Baba Awolowo trying to wake up from his grave.
It won't be a good, I don't know, after everything.
You mean education has become so cheap and so important in the so-called southwest of Nigeria that schools will be closed down, 23 schools for that matter, for 10 years, simply because we were fighting over an age-long feud on land. What again will you deploy land if not to build schools? It is saddening that is even happening in the southwestern region. Is unedifying, and to say the least.
Mr. Salami, you see, this issue is something that we can talk about it for the whole day. Number one, Mr. Salami, these areas that you had these 23 schools, do they have lawmakers in the House of Assembly in the state? Do they have councillors? Do they have representatives in the House of Reps and in the Senate? You mean we had people who represented these areas for 10 years and not one of them was bothered with the fact that schools were shut?
Well, it speaks to what we have been saying, our values, our morals, and what do we hold dear in our hearts. Do you know that it has gotten to a level, because that is what it means now, that you can dispense with education. And that is, to say the least, ungratifying.
And I'm sure that in the last 10 years when the schools were shut, people went to
23 years.
23
schools in 10 years.
23 schools. In the last 10 years.
In the last 10 years.
That these schools were shut. A lot of candidates went to those areas for campaign.
They did.
A lot of, and they made promises.
And the unintended consequence of what they have done is that they must have destroyed destinies. In the last 10 years, imagine the number of students or children who ordinarily would have loved to be in school, but who God knows what they are doing today. Unintended consequence of their irresponsibility, so to speak.
It's I don't think any adjective would be too harsh to put on those responsible for this, because it's something that just like you said, it's a value for the education system. Mr. Salami, I don't think if there was a refinery in that state that they will allow it to be moribund for 10 years. If there was an airport in that area, they will allow it to be shut for 10 years, Mr. Salami.
It is sad that, you see, I've been saying it that no rich man will fight another rich man because of a poor man. If a rich man fights another rich man, it's not fighting because of the poor. It's because his interest has not been taken care of. If it were, like you rightly pointed out, airport, and of course maybe a company under which most of them or many of them are directors, they will have found a solution to it. And in any case, the so-called schools that we are talking about, is it the school for their children?
Okay, Mr. Salami, I don't want to get very emotional about it.
We must be emotional about it. We are discussing the life of some people.
It's rather very saddening.
And the downtrodden people,
it is,
so to speak.
All right, let's move on to another important story. Rerun elections, voter apathy looms as IGP restrict movement in 2016. Yes, I promised that I was going to list the names of those states, and there are Ebonyi, Yobe, Kebbi, Lagos, Ondo, Taraba, Benue, Borno, Kaduna, Plateau, Akwa Ibom, Anambra, Cross River, Delta, Enugu, Jigawa, Katsina, Adamawa, Bauchi, Bayelsa, Kano, Nasarawa, Niger, Oyo, Sokoto, and Zamfara states. So those are the 26 states that we will have the election, the by-election. And as we said also, there is restriction of movement except you are on essential duties. Either you are an INEC official or election observer, accredited media a person, and observers both foreign and domestic. And maybe you are also on medical emergencies, ambulance responding to medical emergencies, firefighters responsible to emergencies, and so many other things that will have to do with emergencies. Those are the only people that are excluded from this restriction. So this is another opportunity for people in these states to maybe also go out tomorrow and discharge their civic responsibility by bringing on board those that they believe will improve their fortunes. Mr. Salami.
Well, it's a civic responsibility, and we'll implore our people to go all out and exercise their right, civic right, so to speak. And voter apathy, please, at the end of the day, if you don't go out and exercise your civic responsibility, those people that you do not want there
will take over.
And where they do, you have yourself to blame. Please go out, shine your eye as they speak, and vote those you believe will serve you and will protect your interest. And INEC should please allow the wishes of the people to prevail. Please ensure that you conduct a credible and fair, and allow the wishes of the people to prevail.
All right, it's still in Super Review on Citizen FM 93.7. The lines are still open, 0903 2229 797. You can also call us on 0818 2222 or 0818 2222 206. My guest is Salmon Salami, COO of Citizen FM, giving us an insight into some of the newspaper headlines that we are discussing. Mr. Salami, let's get back to some security stroke political issues. State police, way to go, say governors, legal giants, others. Governors across party lines and legal giants are united in the call for the establishment of state police. The country has been reeling under some security issues in a renewed wave of crime and stuff. And the long and short of it, Mr. Salami, is that there is a renewed campaign for state police. This time, not just governors from one political party, across party lines, and also this time from lawyers and other prominent Nigerians. What do you think?
Well, I think it has gotten to a level where we have to interrogate our security apparatus. It has gotten to a level where Nigerians are now rethinking the way to go as regards security. The insecurity in the land is such that nothing is too much to give in order to allow our people to sleep with their eyes closed. Is it state police? If it's state police, what are the issues to be taken care of? If it's still the centralized one that to a very large extent has not really served us well, what should we change? We should know that what is permanent in life is change. The color of the change and how should it be is what we should work on. But one thing remains important: we cannot negotiate peace and security. Without peace and security, we cannot make any meaningful progress. Well, let us look at it critically and come up with what will serve our interest in such a way that there will be peace in Nigeria. All we need in Nigeria is peace. I will not volunteer opinion on whether we should go by state police or we should retain what we have, but all I will plead is this: in coming up with what will serve us better, let us think very well and put Nigeria first.
Well, Mr. Salami, I will volunteer an opinion, and for as long as we say Nigeria is a federation, we cannot pick and choose what we need to do, because depending on what side of the divide you stand, I see people who today they speak for state police, tomorrow they seem to be dilly-dallying. Someone who was governor 5 years ago, 6 years ago, was very outspoken when it comes to the issue of the state police. Today he is out of government. You ask him about state police, and because his relationship with the state governor is not cordial, he begins to dilly-dally. Because Mr. Salami, let's face it, the biggest plug a lot of people have for that is that, the governors will use the machinery of the police to come against their perceived and real political opponent and stuff. Outside that, what other argument do people have against state police? I can't find one. So we can't continue like this. If we're a federation, we need to work. It might not be in one fell swoop and say, okay, let's legislate state police into laws. We can start gradually, because it's something that we cannot avoid. It's obvious that a centralized police, especially the one as practiced today, can hardly solve crime. Every crime is local, and we need to make sure that we beam our searchlight and the local areas, local governments. People need to know who their residents are. Law enforcement agents need to familiarize themselves with the community they serve. You cannot just post somebody from Lagos, post him to somewhere in a village in Adamawa, and he doesn't know anything. It's not as if he's even equipped with the necessary equipment and everything to do his job and everything. So it's something that we need not shy away from. As a country, we need to take the bull by the horn gradually. Let's start and see how far we can go. It can take us 10 years, 15 years to finally arrive at that point.
Indeed, you are the head of news.
Okay, let's come back home. Let's come back to this day newspaper. There was this story that I said we will come back to. Akpabio Gowon urged Nigerians to emulate Onaekon, extol Cardinal's virtue at 80. The president of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, has hailed the emeritus Catholic Archbishop, His Eminence Cardinal John Onaekon, for his remarkable life and service as a true icon of faith and leadership. He said Onaekon's unwavering commitment to justice, compassion, and unity has touched countless lives and inspired generation. He described him as a man of unfaltering faith and unfluctuating dedication, who became a beacon of hope, guiding his flocks with love, compassion, and unwavering integrity. Mr. Simon, I can see you just smiling. What do you have to say about this?
I have a lot to say about this. His Eminence, Cardinal John Onaekon, is a national icon. No less, another statesman, General Yakubu Gowon, is a veritable and consummate role model. Akpabio, by virtue of his position today, is an upcoming notable one, a significant others, like sociologists will say. Let us celebrate our home. We have global icons in this country. We have beacons of hope in Nigeria, and we have Nigerians who are imbued with integrity. His Eminence Cardinal Onaekon is one. We thank God that he has lived long. At 80 and still kicking, contributing meaningfully to the progress, peace, and unity of this country is not only salutary but commendable. May God give him good health and more years in prosperity, and may he continue to shepherd, to keep the flocks, and more anointing.
We say amen to that. Oh, well, we are gradually wrapping up the show, but we are still taking calls. Call us on 0903 2229797. You can also call us on 0818 2222205 or 0818 2222206. It's the newspaper review on Citizen FM 93.7. Mr. Salami, there's a story here from The Nation newspaper. We read the headline earlier, but we said we were going to come back to it. INEC excludes PDP from by-election in Plateau State, and this is the story. The stage is set for tomorrow's by-election in the Senate, House of Representatives, and House of Assembly across 26 states. And however, the commission said the PDP will not participate in election in Plateau North Senatorial District and Jos North and Bassa Federal constituencies based on the judgment of the Court of Appeal. The court had nullified the victory of the PDP House of Assembly members in the state following the party's failure to conduct its congresses according to laid down rules. Also in Ebonyi, High Court in Abakaliki nullified the candidacy of Silas Onu being fielded by the PDP. Mr. Salami, is this going to generate another round of controversy?
You know, INEC is a law-abiding agency. And even a wrong law remains the law if it has not been set aside by a court of competent jurisdiction. Even perceived wrong judgment is still the judgment if it's not appealed against. And even if it's appealed against and the judgment is not reversed, it's still the judgment. So there's nothing we can do about that. And this is where judicial activism and the judiciary should come and look into so many things. For example, the lawmakers in Plateau State on their own said they will resume when the Court of Appeal and the final court in that regard had given a judgment, and they said because the Supreme Court allowed the governor, so ipso facto they too. Who told them?
Who does that?
And is that how it is? You see, it's democracy, and a cardinal pillar of democracy is the judiciary. That is why we should not joke with our judiciary, and that is why the judicial officers should know that they are ministers in the temple of justice. They have to be careful. Whatever you do affects the lives, the destiny of not just an individual but a nation. I won't say more than that on this.
Okay, I will also not say more than that on this. But Mr. Sarabi, before we go, let's look at this story, which seems straightforward enough, harmless enough, but it's something that we should also look at. Ondo Deputy Governor pledges loyalty to the governor.
As if he has a choice.
The Deputy Governor of Ondo State, Olahide Adelami, has pledged unwavering loyalty to his principal, Governor Lucky Ayedatiwa, affirming his commitment to the administration's goals. And that I doubt whether there's been any occasion where you have a governor and a deputy governor initially when they start that they will say no, we are not going to be loyal, but somewhere along the line that perceived disloyalty creeps in. What happens? Why is it always like this? You always find a cat and mouse game between the governor and the deputy all over, and even at the presidential level. Let's not forget during the regime of former President Olusegun Obasanjo and his then vice president, up to a point that it got to court. In fact, up to a point that the president declared the office of the vice president vacant. That was a first in Nigeria, and until the Supreme Court said no, you can't do that. So, and that's why some of us have really questioned the need for that office of the vice president. I know I discussed it with you. It was sometime in the newsroom, and you said no, there has to be a vice president, a vice deputy governor. But when you see how this, because it looks, the way the constitution is framed, the way the office of the deputy governor is, it looks as if the deputy governor, in fact, is like a special assistant to the governor. Let's face first.
Well, Lawrence, this is a very, very controversial issue, and to me, you can do more than 300 dissertations, PhD dissertations, on the need or not for a deputy governor. You are a car owner and you have a spare tire, and the spare tire could have stayed in the boot for more than 20 years or thereabout. Does it mean you don't need a spare tire? Well, a CFA of blessed memory once described the deputy governors as spare tire, that they are there at the governor.
Mercy.
At the mercy of the governor. You see, it is not necessarily bad or a bad constitutional provision. No, there is need for a deputy governor. And I want to believe that the deputy governor holds office at the mercy of the constitution and not the governor. The governor did not on his own appoint the deputy governor. It's a joint ticket. In actual fact, your ticket is not complete until you have a deputy governor. So it only means that because the constitution recognizes that position, it must remain. But again, the working relationship between the governor and the deputy governor over the years have been very frosty, and this to say the least. And unless there is cooperation between the governor and the deputy governor, the state will suffer. That is the truth. And the development in that state will be stopped or will be stalled. This is why we call on the political actors to please always put the interest of the nation.
That's a tall order.
It should be. But politicians will always be politicians. Since we started the democracy in 1999, how many governors have taken over? How many deputy governors have taken over from their governors? Except the one in Zamfara State, and we know how it ended. But then, and this is a very, very important one, politicians should play according to the rule. Unless we allow the rule of law to prevail, I have my fears.
All right, I think that's well said. We don't need to push that, but I'm sure it's a topic that we can explore another day and look at. And besides, this is when the lawmakers are doing the constitution review. So those who feel strongly about certain things concerning that, this is an opportunity. Instead of resorting to insults on the social media, this is an opportunity. Go to your lawmaker, go to your representative and say, this is how we feel about this part of the constitution, and let's see how it goes from there. So that's it on the Ondo State Deputy Governor. We wish him the best, and we wish him a seamless relationship with his principal in office, and see how that goes. So, Mr. Salami, before we round off, we were talking about the Punch newspaper as it's celebrated, or it's celebrating its 50th anniversary. And we said you can count the number of newspapers on your fingertip that have clocked 20 years and still running. So when you have a newspaper saying that has been on the street for 50 years, it's something to celebrate. And when you look at the quality of our colleagues in that newspaper, and let's not forget that our own boss, the boss of bosses, he was once an editor of the Punch newspaper. So you can imagine somebody who trained us. So we don't have a choice but to say congratulations to the Punch newspaper. And Mr. Salame,
I do not know whether you noticed that Alhaji Nojinyo did not come to office in the last 1 week.
Yes.
You know, when you talk of the Punch, he doesn't brood any. He's sold out. When you talk about the Punch, he believes that the Punch has been punching, and he believes that one of the best newspapers in Nigeria is the Punch. Unarguably, what can we do than to wish the Punch a very happy celebration, and to pray that the Punch continues to punch, because you can talk of any paper in Nigeria, unless you mention Punch, you have not started talking. Punch is a newspaper. Punch is an institution, and I wish Punch a very, very happy celebration and many more years of doing what they know how to do best.
Yes, I join you in that wishes, and we wish the Punch newspaper happy celebration. And we also congratulate our boss, also Alhaji Najim Jimo, for being part of this history, because what the Punch is today, they laid the foundation, and today the Punch is reaping from it. So congratulations to everyone who has had anything to do with the Punch newspapers in the past 50 years.
Let me just quickly add this. There is hardly any journalist in Nigeria who, in the real sense of the word, is a journalist that has not benefited from the generosity and the depth of the knowledge of Alhaji Najim Jimo.
Absolutely. A trainer of trainers, the boss of bosses. Once again, the Punch newspapers and Alhaji Jim Jimo, congratulations, sirs. So, Mr. Salami, I think this is the best place to draw the anchor on this program for today and this week. Thank you so much, as always, for having you on our show.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lawrence.
Well, that's our package on the show today. The program returns on Monday, bright and early. My name is Lawrence Omoette. Enjoy the rest of your day.